Hello, you two. Good morning.
Hiya,
Good
Drew.
morning.
Oh,
Good
great.
morning.
I'm Good morning. Good morning. I'm here with Laraine Newman and Margaret Cho. We're so excited to have y'all back on the show. Oh, and for our viewers at home, Margaret, who's the little baby next to you?
Lucia
It's so,
Katerina Lawler
oh,
Cho. She had a long
Oh,
walk and then she was
oh,
barking at squirrels outside. Now she's really tired from it.
oh,
her job is
honey, she's had a
done.
day. I
She's
love
had
So
it.
it.
cute.
Oh
She's
my
really cute.
gosh. Oh my gosh. I love that. And she's Italian
And
and
Estonian, I
English,
guess.
Estonian and Korean all at once. I love it.
Korean. International baby.
Yes, baby. Yes, yes, yes. Lorraine, do you have animals? Do you have pets?
I don't. The last pet we had Portuguese water dogs
Oh,
Ooh.
because it was the only breed the kids weren't allergic to.
ah,
Mm.
And it's a great breed, but it's a working dog. And if you've
mm,
ever had a working dog, they've been bred to think for themselves.
ah.
And the Portuguese water dog would herd fish into nets. So they would dive under the water and herd the fish into the nets. They would carry messages back and forth between the fishermen. And so
Oh my
my
gosh.
dogs, when I was trying to train them, it was like, well, I'll do it as much as where I'm not doing it, not as much as I want to.
Yes. Yes.
They really are like children too. They have a mind of their own, and even I mean, I my one of my dear friends has a dog, and we've raised. I mean, since a puppy, I feel like I've helped raise this dog because living right around the corner, and she's kind of always just done her own thing, and she's warmed up to people, but she's sweet as can be, but just doesn't really need. Doesn't need affection. Is not a needy dog at all for any of that kind of stuff.
Personality.
But I also
Mm.
love like what that just the history and the genes that come down because I grew up having a Boston Terrier, and
Ooh.
Boston Terriers they were trained to run through the streets of Boston, I guess, and grab rats and
Oh,
just kill
ooh.
rats. So that's when they get a hold of like a ragdoll, a sock or a ragdoll, whatever, they just like thrash it together because that's what they were trained to do. And it's
Their
crazy because
purpose.
they are. What'd you say?
That's their like
That's their
inherent
purpose.
purpose.
Yes.
They're relentless.
I mean, that's,
Yes.
yeah, it's a terrier thing. I think Chihuahuas have that too, a little bit of a terrier thing.
Yeah.
I met
It
the
is.
Obama's dogs, the Bo and Sunny, the first dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They're Portuguese water dogs. The
Mm-hmm.
most
Oh, okay. Now I know what you're
beautiful
talking about.
dogs. The most beautiful, just so well mannered, because they were greeting people at the White House. So they were just incredibly social, but very well trained and such a gorgeous breed. I love that dog.
They are,
Yeah.
but when I first got my first one, I was doing a movie up in Woodstock, and I was
Oh,
in the
Lorraine, can you
shop.
turn your volume up a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
Just a tad. I think it's just the
When
monitors.
we got our first Portuguese water dog, I was doing a movie in Woodstock, and I went into a bookstore, and I saw that they clearly had a Portuguese water dog puppy. I said, "Oh, is that a porty?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "I have a puppy," and they said, "You have our condolences." And then
Oh,
I remember Michelle Obama saying, "These dogs are crazy."
wow.
Yes. Yes. Well, they got a hold of their personality. They got a hold of the behavior. They were so well mannered, just beautiful. So I think they grow into a kind of maturity.
Mm.
Yeah, they're great adult dogs. They're fabulous. They're fabulous dogs.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
But they really are like people because there's so much of us comes fully formed. And then there's stuff that you're like, oh, that's because this happened to you or this because you were raised such a way. And then there are other things you're like, that was just in me from conception. And,
mm-hmm.
the whole like, nature nurture thing is like, oh, I think it's both for,
Mm-hmm.
for sentient beings. Cause it's sort of like, yeah, you carry the history with you. You carry your own specific little DNA. And then you're also just like, oh, and then life hits you and you kind of walk through it all and try to
You remember
navigate it
that
all.
book, Clan of the Cave Bear?
Oh, I've
Mhm.
only seen the
Did you
movie,
read it?
sadly, but yes.
Well, I didn't see the movie, but the book has this part of it where these individuals maintain the history of their ancestors. It's in them, and I always thought that
Mm.
was such an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
I remember having to watch that movie in school and loving Daryl Hannah, and just I remember that. Like when they were going to have sex, I remember that they would clap and then they would like do their arms together, and that was like just these terrible men, And you're like, gosh, men have always been horrid.
But the outfits and the look was very Burning Man.
Oh,
it was very like post-apocalyptic, but 2012 apocalyptic.
Yes,
like how we thought the world was going to end then, and everybody sort of dressed that way.
Oh,
so the aesthetics are cool.
I love that. I love that we've kind of always thought of like future in those sort of terms. It's sort of like it always has that sort of, Raquel Welch. Was that
1 million BC?
Thank you, 1 million BC. It always says just that look of like we return to cave times and to primal, whatever. That's also that's also in us.
Is when they depict the future, a lot of the men were completely bald.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's who would have thought that would be like a look.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
right.
Or balding like Sean Connery in Zardoz. He was balding with a long braid.
Zardoz. Now that is some cinema.
I love that you mentioned Zardoz.
Zardoz
is really a great. I mean, his outfit, it's like male lingerie. Because and it's sort of a little bit like it could be good at the Folsom Street Fair. It could be that look.
And isn't it kind of like crimson? Is that in my memory of him?
Red.
It's like red. Okay, yeah. Sean Connery. God, it was just
almost carnelian. It's not even like it's almost like an orange red. It's a very burnt orange red.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I also love when you ever want to tell the era of a movie when they try to show the future. Like this, like a movie never looks more like its era than when it tries to show the future. Like a 60s movie show it like Barbarella. You're like, this is so 60s, or whatever. And you're kind of like looking at something and going, oh, this is exactly what our subconscious thought of. Or like 80s, like the Apple, which have y'all seen the Apple? Do you know that film?
No.
Oh, the Apple, you would both love it. The Apple came out in 1980, but it's set in the future of 1994. Ooh. In which just always wise to set a movie just 14 years in the future. But it's when the music industry controls the government, and it's a rock and roll musical. Catherine Mary Stewart is in it. And then I don't know anybody else. And Finola Hughes is an extra in it. You'll catch her from General Hospital.
Wow.
Catch her in it for a minute. And it's like an Adam and Eve story, like, so therefore the Apple, but it's all set in the world of like, rock and roll. And it's like, but the Mr. Boogaloo like controls the government. And it's like at 4:00 every afternoon, everyone has to stop whatever they're doing and dance. And it is magical trash. It is so good.
Great,
that sounds great. I would love to see that.
But it's on, you can find it. But it was something that like for a while, it would only screen at the New Art like once a year, and you would like find it. And people, there's this thing, the government, it's obviously a cult, and everyone has to wear these triangles called BIMs. So you wear a BIM mark, and that means you're like, sort of like you've been branded, but it's so 1980. It's so from that Xanadu, that sort of Can't Stop the Music era where they were just like, let's make a rock musical, but there could not be, it's so far off from 1994. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Omega Man the other day with Charlton Heston, and
I've never seen the Omega Man.
It was supposedly set in the future of 1977. and that color of that time and the sound, there was always something about the sound in those movies from that time. And a chase scene would still have like the wah-wah pedal.
Yeah.
And
amazing!
It's like a Michael Crichton movie. It was like what inspired Night of the Living Dead, supposedly, and
right, because he has to screen his own movies. That's the thing of like he goes out and he's like the only man, and then there's these hippie zombies,
right, that
are kind of but he just like has to live his life alone, and he just wants to watch movies. So he's the projectionist in the movie theaters. He gets to watch. I think that's kind of. Yeah, I really wanted to watch that after seeing the trailer not that long ago, so I have to watch that too. That's great.
Okay, well, the Omega Man.
It's not that good. I'll just let you know that.
Yeah.
But I love that kind of stuff. I love like missed failures with great ideas. It's like, that's what I think they should remake. It's like, tell that story and be like, or find another way to do it. But also, I don't know. I enjoy that. I enjoy that kind of stuff. I don't, guilty pleasures. I'm like what you like. I mean, it's like, get into
Yeah, there's
it.
nothing, no guilt about it. I just like
No.
I watched Basic Instinct and Jade double feature.
Oh, two
Esther Haas,
fantastic movies.
Jade, there's no Asian people in it. It's Angie Everhart.
And it's called Jade.
Is the Asian with the green kippah.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's so funny. Well, there's actually two Asian extras in the beginning of Jade.
Oh.
You don't see them again for the whole movie.
Oh.
But Jade was like the sort of, it's going to be even more erotic than Basic Instinct.
Oh, yes. And that was the movie that David Caruso left.
Yeah. Left NYPD Blue.
NYPD Blue to like start his film career. Right. And is it he or it's Linda Fiorentino in that movie too, right?
Yes, Linda Fiorentino's in it.
Who is the killing with the car is one of the funniest, most brilliant things ever in that movie. Isn't there a car death in that movie?
It's it happened. It's near the beginning. It's all very it's so 90s noir.
Yes.
It's that perfect kind of 90s noir. And San Francisco, I love movies set in San Francisco also, so it's perfect.
Too. And so is Basic Instinct. That's also San Francisco, which I
love.
So
it's the same. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And I watched that again recently. It's so fun. It's so wild. And I know, I think Sharon Stone's great in it. I think Michael Douglas is great. I mean, like, it's just like, I wish they would make movies like that again. Like, I miss those. I mean, Sliver, any of them. I love that sort of.
I love like the erotic thriller. And I love that anybody who's vaguely lesbian wears a vest. The vest code. It's like lesbian hanky code. It's so perfect.
Yes. Oh my God, it's so good. Yes, because that's the Jean Triplehorn. Just in that movie too. There's yeah. Oh, and what's her name? The other blonde in Basic Instinct that Catherine Trammell has the makeout with.
Roxy, her lover. Roxy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is that actress? I can't remember her name. She's
don't
wonderful.
know either. Yeah, she's so good.
But then they go and they dance at a gay bar, or it's like a sort of a queer club. And the dancing is really fabulous and everybody looks great. And it's just such a fun scene of like San Francisco queer culture. Really cool. Love it.
I mean, but also I love that Paul Verhoeven's understanding of like American culture of like, because the dancing in Showgirls is so crazy too. And it's like, just like people having fun and it's just kind of angry and frenetic and I love it. I wish we went out and danced like that. I love that. We're all too
just
cool.
Nomi Malone, who's like grabbing, like, it's very modern. It's not really, she's just grabbing at anything. It's like a wild animal dancing.
Yes.
I love
Her
it.
character was like a wild animal. Like
totally.
Impulsive and quick to anger. And
the blade in the very beginning of the movie, you're like, oh, she means it.
And then the vomiting,
the vomiting,
the vomiting, like really like the crazy, like my cat does that sometimes, like running, vomiting, all of it. So
all
good.
of it.
And the scene in the pool.
Oh, it's beautiful. So true to life.
I was watching that with my ex, father of my children, but we were watching that, and he turns to me and says, "You and me, that scene."
So good.
Meanwhile, two people show up to the ER. Like, what were you doing? Well, we were trying to thrash fuck.
Snapping my head back really
5 feet apart from each other.
So much.
It's that the this and the waterfall and all of this stuff. Like, it's just poor Kyle MacLachlan.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, I know.
Great.
But he's so committed. I mean, I do what I love about Great Camp is that everyone is so committed to that movie. I think
like
Gina Gershon is, and Patrick. How great is Patrick in that?
Our Patrick Bristow.
Oh, Patrick Bristow, the genius Patrick. And I love his stories in the movie because they all were like really going for it and thinking it was going to be this, and I love it we still talk about it, it's
absolutely. I don't even think you could classify its style.
I know. Yeah. It really is. If it weren't for the rape, which is the part of the movie I just can't
watch that scene.
That part is so awful and just so misguided.
So upsetting.
It really is. And it's just the thing we're like, oh, just no. And also that character doesn't deserve it at all. You're like that is
Great.
just it was just
I
it
know.
was yeah. But
It's
other
like a
than that
messy
part of the movie, I
buffet,
think
that
it's
movie.
I'm
It's a
sorry, what
really
did you say,
messy
Lorraine?
buffet,
Yes.
Mhm.
that's been picked over, but there's everything on there.
Yes.
You
And
call
it's
that a
so
PK
Vegas.
turn? It's like you call that a PK turn.
PK
And
turn.
tennis ball. I love tennis ball's hair. I think about that movie too much.
Oh my God, I know. There's so much stuff in it that it's like, it was truly like written by someone from another planet, like how people talk, like the puppy chow conversation. It's like, oh yeah, that's just friends at lunch.
Yeah.
The weird eroticism, that forced eroticism between Elizabeth Berkley and Gina Gershon. That
I
really
know.
they didn't really have the erotic chemistry. They had chemistry of some kind.
Yes,
It wasn't
totally.
erotic though.
No.
But everybody was DTF.
Yeah,
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
Everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
So good.
Robert Davi, all of them are just slime balls. Oh, it's just so delicious. I think
good.
too, like a lot of things are so aware. Like everyone knows the genre that they're sending up, and things are made now with this like added sheen of like wink, wink, get it. And it drives me crazy. It's so few things I feel like I see now that I'm like, oh wow, like I really love that they trusted us to or they just were so in their own vision. They didn't care about
It was
making
a
me
movie
happy.
like no one was watching.
Yes. I love it.
That's right. That's right.
I love it. Well, how are your days? I'd love to hear from either one of you. Like, what's something you'd like to talk about or reveal on this? What is it? Wednesday morning? I had the day wrong earlier.
What I had wanted to introduce the minor thing.
Sure.
I have never drank a beer.
Really?
And I have severe alcoholism, and I've been institutionalized for it. And I have, been sober for quite some time, but I have still never drank a beer. I know what it tastes like. I have never actually swallowed it, but I have a suspicion of what it might taste like. And I have put it a little bit in my mouth, but never drank one.
How would you describe it?
I imagine it tastes something like sparkling water.
Mm-hmm.
But with
like bilge water.
Yeah.
I've only had one sip of one beer.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
that is wild.
Weirdos in AA that never drank. I just used drugs. So
And you never
Margaret. Totally.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
kinda
kind of that
cute.
too. I'm that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say like, well, I if I'm going to drink, I'll drink vodka. I love vodka, and I love wine.
Mm-hmm.
But I also never quite drank a beer. It seems to me like it tastes like bread crusts.
Yeah, bread. It's very bready. I every now and then I had a beer yesterday. I drink maybe 5 or 6 beers a year, if that many. As someone who drinks, I mean, it's like in the summertime, I'll have one when it's really hot. Most beer drinkers hate IPA because it's really bitter and it's kind of very grapefruit-y, like because it has extra hops because of the way it was made and shipped, and it had to travel from India. So it was like, to me, it doesn't really taste like beer, and that's the one that I really like because I don't really love beer at all. Like I always choose an IPA, but like beer snobs, when I always ask the bartender, like, what's your favorite IPA? They're like, none of them. They're terrible because it's just totally different flavor. It's more of like a bitter sort of citrus because I like really bitter. I like really, really bitter tasting things, not necessarily bready, but even with like Scotch, I don't like, there's something in Scotch too that has a very malty sort of thing to it, that yeasty taste to it that I don't really love. I mean, there's amazing homemade sourdough bread, but again, bitter. That's why I like it. Mm-hmm. Homemade bread I love, but I'm not a bread person either. Like that's one thing I could give up when I'm like trying to lose weight. I'm like, bread and white potatoes are the first things I can give up.
Drew, keep that to yourself, will you? Because
I love bread.
I love like spicy, flavorful. Like I just like a lot more. And there's something about like that I don't necessarily like. But I wouldn't know how to really describe beer other than sort of bilge water is good. Yeasty, sort of like, I don't know. Yeah, it does something for some people, but usually just regular beer. It's kind of sweaty and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. That is.
kind of connected to that idea is that I'm never thirsty. I was like born without thirst.
Wow.
I have to force myself to drink liquid, and I'll drink it while I'm eating. But if I'm not eating, it's, and all of those diet things and health things, it's like, 6, 8 ounce or 8 ounce things of water a day. And I would be like throwing up
Oh,
because
yeah.
I cannot drink a lot of liquid. And I'm not thirsty. And that was the thing about beer. I remember I went on a teen tour when I was 16, and we were in London at this bar, and these guys had these steins that were huge, and they just drink the whole thing. And I'm just like, how can anybody be that thirsty?
Right. Well, and it makes you more thirsty too, because it does that weird thing of, it's got that.
Because it's a dehydrating.
It dehydrates you. So
the alcohol. Together. Yeah. It's just so weird, and beer, like it's just so bloaty and foamy, and I don't know.
There was something when I saw that it's like a beer is like 8 slices of bread in terms of just like what we're having. I'm like, oh, that's all I need to hear. Like, I keep it away. Yesterday it was like super hot. It was the middle of the day, and end of the day, we were kind of like perfect time. Because I don't know, there's other stuff that I don't think. What do you think? I mean, that's so interesting that neither one of you really drank that, or you, Laraine, you never really drank that much, and it's just because it always says like that's the gateway, like everyone starts drinking first, The
beer is the first thing you're sort of offered,
right?
Or any kind of a drink that's sort of like the entry point into alcohol is always a beer, or it's some sort of more like very common drink that people are very used to having. It's so easily seen anywhere.
Right.
My gateway was Darvon.
What's
Darvon. That?
It's off the market now, but it's a painkiller.
Oh, wow.
I love that. I love a painkiller.
When I first got my period, this is a great subject, Drew.
I had like monster cramps. I mean, so bad that like when I was 5 centimeters dilated with my first baby, it was like, yeah, I remember this. They were that bad. So I was given Darvon, and I was a really straight kid. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't ditch school or anything, no sex. But someone told me if you take the pink pill that's inside it, it's pure codeine. And no compunction. I just took that right away.
Wow. And that was from early on.
Drew, I was home.
You were home. You felt seen.
Well, I love opiates. Opiates to me are like really just the only thing. And I really have to like I have been, sober and abstinent or whatever for a long time, but every time I look at somebody doing something different, I'm curious, like, what is this huffing computer duster that everybody kids are
right?
I like, what is this rainbow colored fentanyl that you kids are, like I really like have curiosity about, but it's just not, I'm sure it's all kind of the same stuff, but not good.
The pot is so intriguing.
Oh,
gummies and lollipops and soda.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wax and shatter and dabs and all of those, the pens and everything, to me is very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of my go-to drug of choice is an edible. Like I really enjoy that, especially the ones that are, now that you buy them in the store and you know exactly what you're getting, because the old days of just, hey, my friend made a tray of brownies was terrifying. Because you just didn't know. And just when you thought, oh, I'm not feeling anything, I'll do another one. And then you're like on the ceiling. So now I know like, okay, this is a nice ride. I know the peaks and valleys and I know what I'm getting and I'm going to enjoy a movie or whatever. And then, whatever I'm going to go do. But I don't function on them. I don't enjoy, like I couldn't do this on that. I would feel too like weird. I would either talk way too much or just be completely quiet or whatever.
Like,
but
I can't ask this. No, I can't ask
that. Exactly. Oh, they'll think I'm so dumb if I ask that thing. But maybe, oh wait, I just missed that moment. Just missing.
I feel so paranoid. It's just like I don't know. Edibles are very unpredictable for me too. Even though I haven't done them in the age of now we know exactly what milligrams are in things. So even before, when you would go to the pot store, when they were sort of just first in the early 2000s, when they were first starting to provide things, they were still sort of almost home baked goods. I got given a pot brownie from Brownie Mary, who was the woman who kept getting arrested in 90s AIDS San Francisco, where she was
Oh, awesome.
baking
Hell yeah.
pot brownies to give to gay men in hospice who were
Oh,
dying,
bless her.
and to
Wow.
give them an appetite so they could, have a way to eat more and gain some weight. And so she kept getting put in jail. She was in her 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And I met her on the bottom of a hill, and she saw me and she came over and she gave me a brownie. And I sat down and I did not get up for, I think, about 12 hours. I was so high. It was crazy
Wow.
to get dosed by this very phenomenal, iconic person. But I think part of me is still high from that.
To this
Oh,
day,
those
I
things
can't
can
do
change
math.
you
Yeah.
forever.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's the only new drug that I haven't tried that I want to try is ayahuasca. And even that, I feel like I'd have to go, it'd be a whole series of situation I'd have to be in. That's not just something you just get off the street and just sit down and do ayahuasca by yourself. You have to be in like a whole,
There's nothing worth puking for me.
there's also that, I think about all that stuff too. And it's sort of like, I love the experience that I have, but I don't always love myself when I'm on those things or what it's coming out of my mouth and what I'm saying. It sort of creates, I feel a little phoniness that comes over with it when I'm like, I'm in love with everyone in the room and I'm just giving this love. And there's part of me that's like, I don't quite believe that. And I turn on my brain a little bit about that kind of stuff. Like those things don't always open me up to a truth as much as just really kind of fuck me up. And then there are other amazing things that I get out of those experiences, like with mushrooms or whatever, that it's like, or ecstasy or whatever, Molly or whatever. It's like, part of it is like, am I just high, or do I really love this person I just met that I'm sitting down next to? I really feel that connected.
But you still have critical thinking. I never did.
Yeah.
If I was high like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the love. It's sort of like I get caught up in the moment the drug, the opiate receptors really going hard. I do love the drug, but the problem is I don't love the after effects of being dope sick, and then having to get more drugs, and then the corrosive effects on the body. Everything of that comes with it. I can't handle.
Yeah, of course, absolutely not. It's horrible, and I think too. It's like it's not worth it. It's like, it's great to experiment and try it, but it's not worth it. And beer is absolutely not worth it. Like, y'all dodge those bullets big time. I don't understand that at all.
But talking about like being intrigued by these new products and everything, my attitude, I mean, that aside, I have that attitude about food. It's like, I must have knowledge of this thing.
Right.
This pastry that I have never had.
Right.
I have to have knowledge of it. And then I don't have to eat it again, which doesn't always happen. But, it's, I have that with food where I've never seen that. I've never had it. I must know.
I will follow when I go to new cities. I will look up the best or weird, like kind of offbeat restaurants or where the locals eat, whatever. And I'm like, I have to get the thing that people are talking about, and just to knock it off the list. And it's not usually what I would order on the menu, but I just try to I have to have that too. I also, aside from every 5 or 10 years, there's a new Brazilian superfruit that comes out that we've never heard of. That's like amazing. I think of most food, we would have had it by now if it's still amazing.
Excuse, I can stop down. Sorry.
Oh,
Go
great.
ahead. You guys keep going.
Sure.
Okay. Well, there's also reinvention. I think the real name for Chilean sea bass is something else. It's not even a bass, I think.
Right.
They gave it this name because it was more appealing. So it's almost like these foods are being invented.
Oh, well, there's also sea salt. Everything is with sea salt.
Oh, I know.
Or, Madagascar vanilla. They put these things next to something and you go, oh, that must be better. It's Himalayan sea salt.
Sea salt,
They'll do, pink.
Well, some of it is authentically that.
Yes.
But then there's ways to also just do an ersatz version of it.
Right. But they definitely do try to mix things up and make it sound more, exotic. And it's just the thing that it is. Most potato chips are barbecue. I mean, most of these flavored potato chips, I'm kind of they kind of taste like a version of barbecue to me. Right? Or do you not agree?
Well, like the what is it? Vinegar and salt.
Oh, no, not the, no,
There are
those
these
are
new flavors. There are these new flavors.
that weren't around when I was a
You didn't have
child.
vinegar and salt or the basic ingredients.
Yes, it's just the palate of the youngsters can tolerate watermelon flavor.
Oh,
That's
that's
what
the,
I say.
Or, sour apple and, oh God.
ugh. What it's also with chewing gum that is like a fruit and a mint. It's like watermelon spearmint or like these, this
wow.
vile to me. It's like strawberry and like mint something or other. It's just,
Well, also the filled ones, the gum that goes squirt.
No. Horrifying.
You
Jordan
really know
Black
what you're getting.
won't eat food that has food inside of it. He has a thing where he will not eat. Jordan Black, Jordan.
Oh, yes, of course.
He will not eat food if there's food inside of it, like squirt gum. I always think of Jordan when you say, or like Hot Pockets or Pop Tarts or anything that's hidden in a burrito. He doesn't like. He likes to open it up. He has to see his food, and I find that.
I did not know that about him.
Yeah. But it's like I don't trust like what's inside of it. It's so funny to me. But that gum that squirts is so vile. Like it's like jelly, and then it dehydrates the gum, and you can't even chew it anymore. It's terrible.
Yeah, and
awful.
It chemicals, so
No, I can't deal with it at all. But I do think, I just do think that like whatever we have, like we would have had it by now. Like if it was amazing. Like soon you go to a certain place, it's like unless there are laws, like I guess like haggis. When I went to Scotland, it's like you can't legally have that because there's laws about sheep in the United States about what you can do, how you can eat or process that, or whatever. So I get when you go
haggis in a can.
Oh God, no!
In America, and just the thought of it, whatever brave soul is going to try that, my hat is off to them.
Ew.
But something, there's things that have been around, like for instance, kale.
Mm-hmm.
Kale's been around
for sure.
It was a garnish. It was never really considered edible.
Right.
So its existence was pretty much unknown. Do you know the restaurant Mr. Chow's?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So they would serve those emerald green greens that were like fried and salted. That was kale. Yeah.
Well, I worked at the seafood department of a grocery store when I was in college, and kale was what we had to we would display everything on that. I remember we'd have to like kind of massage it down so they could flatten it out a little bit, but it was a garnish. It was like parsley or anything else. And I know.
What about Pauline Kael?
Pauline Kael, my favorite film critic.
What an amazing voice in cinema we've lost.
Oh my God, truly. I love it. Talk about bringing up Xanadu again. Remember her Xanadu review? She took out
I don't remember.
Okay, so she took out an entire column in the Times, New York Times. Is that where she? Yeah. So she took out an entire column to review Xanadu, and she only wrote Xanadont, and then left the entire column blank. So people flipping through the newspaper, you're immediately going to catch that. That is so much better than any scathing review, because you go, wait, there's something wrong with the newspaper. There's a blank column here. And And there was a parody of Xanadu, a musical called Xanadont that they did on stage for a while but that was her. She was so brilliantly mean.
Mm-hmm.
I loved her.
Things she loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, and then they've those things like Rules of the Game, or even Last Tango in Paris, she actually loved.
Oh, wow.
I had a really interesting taste, like just very, very specific and thoughtful. I think she even liked Kentucky Fried Movie. I don't know why I have that in my mind. It's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fun. I love Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah.
Were you in that, Laraine? I know a lot of people, it was the Groundlings people were in that.
I think. No, they were a separate entity from the Groundlings, but I remember this was so odd. There was a theater right next to Fox. It was this little white theater, and someone told me that they played in that place and it was sinking, and there was actually so much moisture that mushrooms were growing on the carpeting in the dressing rooms.
Oh, wow.
But I remember seeing Kentucky Fried Theater there.
Wow. I've been in those dressing rooms. I mean, I've been in those theaters too. The mushrooms, the whole thing. It's so crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, Pauline. I mean, I just wish we had critics anymore that actually were trained in the art of it, because they have a really, well, there are a few that are really brilliant, and you read the review and you go, oh, they've really thought about this, and they actually have a different brain. Like, because we're all critics now, we're all reviewers, everybody online, and we put our comments, whatever, and then. You read a lot of reviews and they're like, oh, you just summarized the movie, or you're just kind of following a popular trend, or you're like liking this because you're supposed to, or hating it because you're supposed to, which I think is even worse.
That's also the culture of that critic's personality, that they, hate everything, so that when they like something, and they hate popular things that everybody loves.
Right.
When they like something, then you consider it.
Right.
Or the art of a critique anyway, I think is really something that has gone by the wayside. I think because we don't have a uniform way that we are understanding news or news commentary or opinion. So it's all fractured, and there's so much social media around this kind of stuff that a lot of it is really the things that they do, like pull quotes for like movie posters and stuff, but the way that we look at culture is a lot different. So the mirror the mirror cracked in a million pieces.
I know. I just sort of always enjoy reading them, even when I disagree. When it's a well-written review, even when I totally disagree with the movie, it's like, wow, I think it's really interesting. And I miss that. Like, 'cause there are not that many people that I just follow as reviewers that I go, oh, wow. There was one.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go for it, Laraine. No.
I follow this critic on Twitter named Sean Burns, and I think he writes for a Boston paper, and he's always hates everything. But he wrote a review of The Green Book, which he also hated, but he was very specific and thoughtful about why he disliked it, and it was brilliant writing, So I just started following him.
Oh, that's great. What is his name again? Sean
Burns.
Sean Burns. And you know this person, Margaret? You know who they are?
I don't know, but I follow a couple of different people on TikTok who are really interesting, that are they're not really critics, but they just love movies, and then they help me fill in the gaps. Also, there's a couple of great podcasts that are centered around the New Beverly and about what the films they program at the New Beverly.
Oh, that's so cool.
They go through the calendar.
Oh, what's it called? I would love to.
It's let me pull it up. Hang on a second. Yeah. It's really cool. I watch these old movies, so it's helpful.
We all do that. I love it. We all watch that. I mean, I see Lorraine's post too. I love your post, Laraine, about the old movies you watch. There's such amazing gems, especially the movies that thought nobody would ever watch them again once they, it's sort of the mistakes and
it's a pure synopses. Oh yeah.
They're so funny.
So cool.
Oh.
But Pure Cinema Podcast is Pure Cinema PCP. Pure Cinema. Yeah, Pure Cinema Podcast. But they program the films there, and then they will go through a lot of films that we are missing, and things that aren't streaming. Which I think is really important, because so much is not streaming. We think we have access to everything, but actually it's pretty limited what we have. The
lie that they told us, like, in the future, you can throw all your DVDs and VHS tapes away because everything will be online. And now you go to look for the one thing you're trying to find, and you can't, because it's like it doesn't exist. So I have a lot of DVDs still, and even a few. I do have like 2 or 3 VHS tapes of weird movies that I know that are rare.
Do you have a way to play them?
No, not at all. The only way I can even watch a DVD is on my laptop, because but I still, it's just sort of like one day I just want to have them. I have a rare, like I got John Waters' Multiple Maniacs on VHS. Like, it was a version they made in the 90s or something. And it's just a really cool, rare, thing that I'm like, you could never find that again. You can't even. I remember when I first saw that movie, I couldn't understand it because the sound was so bad on the tape. And now there's a Criterion Collection, and that is actually streaming. I thought the other day it was on HBO Max, and I was like, this movie is streaming on HBO Max, and so it's weird. Also, what'd you say?
Apple TV, you can get the Criterion Collection.
Right. And that
Anything
is
you want to know about watching television, you ask me.
ask
I watch
Laraine.
a lot of TV.
She knows
Well,
it.
Mubi is really good as
Movie
a
is
streaming
great.
service.
Yeah.
They have really great. Like I have Mubi and Criterion, but you know what's excellent for trash is Tubi.
Tubi. Yes, exactly. It is.
Tubi is like for anything. If you love like going to a Blockbuster and finding the weirdest, like martial arts sexploitation kind of things, they
Oh,
have
yeah.
that. Like the weird genre stuff. I think they have Snuff is on Tubi, which
Oh,
is like the most ridiculous movie. But it's got a lot of horror, a lot of weird things. Also has a lot of trash TV from the aughts. Like, is Hollywood too skinny? Hollywood girls out of control, too skinny. It's like all that sort of weird, flashy, really sexist, anti-woman body shamey TV. Which is really crazy.
Body shamey.
Yeah.
I love watching that stuff. It's so fun to just be like, oh, this was presented without any irony, and it was presented as hard-hitting news and truth. It's just
all
like,
that's available on Tubi, and all as is the Red Shoe Diaries.
Oh, Zalman King.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So all that. I love it.
Oh my God. David Duchovny was in all those. And yeah. I remember Red Shoe Diaries. That was I was just such a special time to like late night Skinamax movies and just the weirdest stuff that, was just made that was just like, gosh.
The Cinemax softcore. I remember that stuff. But I saw something on TCM that blew my mind. It was called Deliverance, and it was from 1919, and it was the story of Helen Keller.
Wow.
So they do a dramatization of her as a small child, then a young girl, and then a woman, and she plays herself in the part where she's a woman, and Annie Sullivan plays herself, and her parents played themselves.
Whoa.
Wow. I have to watch that.
It's an hour and 40 minutes. It's a silent movie, obviously.
That's crazy.
But, it was just so odd and wonderful.
And what is the name of it again?
It was called Deliverance.
Deliverance. Okay, that's what I thought you said. But but it's not the famous,
No,
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, Piggy, Ned Beatty one. But that's crazy. It was wild how many silent films were so ahead of their time and that got lost. So many of them that just rotted somewhere and then you can't find. There's also one from probably 1919, around that time, called Different from the Others. And it's the first gay film that Outfest and UCLA restored. And most of it was destroyed by the Nazis. So like they only had about an hour of it they could put together. But you're watching gay men dancing with each other and you're seeing this like
American movie.
It was, I believe, a German movie. But it was obviously, it was silent. And it's just wild to think that was over 100 years ago.
Well,
and the beginning of film.
About those old movies is that they completely took it in stride that women wrote the movies and directed them. You'd see women's names in credits constantly for having written and directed these movies, and it wasn't even a consideration. Of course, that person can do the job, they do it. I was always fascinated by that.
Yeah.
And in one or two before they were making money and they were like the thing to do. It was just artists. Just, it was way more accepted. And then it became a money-making thing. And it's like, let the men get in charge and let the men take over and ruin things. And because we need to, that's so, it's so nuts. I just, anything like also pre-Hays Code that you watch and you're like, it took 40 years to like deal with that kind of, that again. That's so amazing. It's so great. Laraine, do you have another, a revelation of some sort?
Well, the thing is that, I've done so many podcasts and I've written a book, and at least 17 people have listened to that. So I feel like everybody knows so much about me, but, and I've said this quite a bit often, but I love electronic dance music.
You do, EDM.
Yeah. And, I love Skrillex and 12th Planet, just so many of them. And there used to be a festival in downtown LA that was parked there called Hard Summer, and it was all EDM. And I had this trick to get to the front of the stage where I put a really worried look on my face and go, Robbie,
Oh.
Get to right to the front of the stage.
Robbie is such a good
Yeah.
name too. Robbie.
That's great.
But
That's great.
I was like this human oddity to all these people that would see someone my age there. But I just love it.
Oh, that's so great. What do you think it is about it that's because I don't know it very well. I mean, I love when it's on, but I wouldn't know how to tell. I don't feel like I have I don't have good taste for it.
Well, I like the sounds. I like the composition of
Mm.
sounds
Mhm.
because people like Skrillex really are composers,
Sure.
you know, and I can hear, I love the complexity of it and
Yeah.
the beat, you know, I really love the drop. The drop always just,
Mm.
and it also kind of taps into my rage.
Yeah.
But I
It's
love
very
it.
physical. It's a very like physical experience, any kind of electronic music like that. I like
Mhm.
old electronic music, but like hooked on Bach. Like there's a weird like or
Oh,
switched on
wow.
Bach, like the Wendy
Mm.
Carlos stuff, like the original like Moog kind of
Synthesizer.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I have
Kraftwerk.
oh yeah, Kraftwerk I love.
Oh,
So
Kraftwerk,
ahead of
yeah.
their
So
time.
so
Yeah.
it's so that's really futuristic. It's like past future.
Mhm.
So interesting.
Well, then I think too, you don't without lyrics and having to like literal the lyrics kind of put your brain in a more literal place sometimes, or you know, you're responding to what they're saying or singing, and in this, it's like you lose yourself in that beat and in the world of that. You know,
That's it. As I lose
Mhm.
myself in it.
That's great. That's great.
I need to find new music that I love. I hate being I feel like I've been an old codger about music kind of all my life. Like I've since the 90s. I need to like go out and as opposed to just like, oh, I can't stand. But yeah,
What
it's
I do to find new music is, and I used to do this when I went to Coachella. I started going in 2006, and I hate that it's become a punchline, but I just
Mm.
love it. I can't do it anymore because my knees. It's I go on the website, look at the lineup. They're all in alphabetical order. You can click on that band, and you know, within 5 seconds, you know if you like that sound or not. And there's like
Yeah.
150 bands, but they really curate great stuff.
Mm.
And so that's where I was getting my new music.
That's such a
Yeah.
great idea because
It's
smart.
painstaking, believe me, but
oh, I'm sure
Mhm.
because it's how many bands? It's like
it's like 153.
yeah.
or something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to challenge yourself to find new music. I mean, I have a struggle with it too, but I very like keyed into a genre. Like I love power pop. So everything that I like is sort of like filtered through that lens. And, so it's also like just kind of going deep into the catalog of artists around the time of my sweet spot, 1978 to 1982 of
Oh,
things I
sure.
missed.
Right.
So, and also then if you like play Todd Rundgren, then any other artist that's around that I missed. So
Right.
it's like if you go into Todd Rundgren, who I think is sort
So
of prog rock too,
Mhm.
then it sort of like filters out. Then you can see, but there's a lot of stuff that I missed.
Right. Or just that you can look at now and go, oh, wow, that's sort of, you know, I just love too that, you know, a lot of these bands that were not, you know, that have people talk about now, like Sparks or Television or those things that everyone goes, oh, these were actually the greatest, you know, people that know music then knew it then too. But it's like, it's very cool that, you know, that people are getting rediscovered. And that's one of that gives me hope of just sort of like, we just keep things alive and sort of like, you know, because what else falls into power pop, Margaret?
Yeah, what is power pop?
Power pop is anything that's sort of like descended from the Beatles. So it's like I think the 80s there was a real resurgence of power pop. So bands like Big Star or even something like The Replacements could be a little bit of a darker iteration of power pop.
Okay.
But power pop is really Elvis Costello, Nick Lowe, the Bangles, Go-Go's. It's a kind of, it can be sugary, it can be melodic, but it can be also very new wave. New wave was a very big era for power pop.
Okay.
I
Would
think
the Runaways be considered?
Runaways definitely power
Blondie.
pop. Blondie for sure.
Yeah.
Kim Fowley is probably you know big sort of influence in power pop too. So any band that like would be descended from like David Bowie and
Okay.
glam. So
And it's
Mark
funny 'cause
Bolan, T-Rex.
there's like a distinction between that and heavy metal.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting.
Because heavy metal, it goes into more of a dirge, kind of a harder sound. It's not as melodic. There's melodic moments, but power pop is mostly staying in the melodic thing. And there's a heavy influence of B minor and C#7. So if you're like working on those notes, it's that. Joe Jackson is probably the ultimate power pop guy. Anything that he does, but it's so anything is that kind of iteration. So now I think power pop is bands like Soccer Mommy, Claro, Beach Bunny,
Yeah.
Mitski.
Oh,
I don't know any of them.
I don't either, but I'm going to go back and because that's what I need to. I also is it Wet Leg?
Wet Leg could be power pop. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I love that
pop.
Chaise Lounge song. I love that song. I know I'm literally, this is literally Grandpa version going, wet wipe. Yeah, but
I was
I love
in
them.
Hannah's car the other day and she was playing a song and I looked at the artist and it was Badfinger.
Oh,
I love Badfinger.
I've heard of Badfinger.
Badfinger is very power pop.
Yeah.
Badfinger, Todd Rundgren, a 10cc, Phil
10cc.
Seymour, all of those bands, very
God.
power pop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really into. I also really love 60s French girl music. Like I love.
You like the yee
yee. Oh yeah, and I love. I mean, anything that's sort of in that.
François Hardy and
Serge Gainsbourg and any of that kind of
and anything they did with Jane, and I love that stuff too.
Jocelyn and all those, anything that's sort of like, it makes me so happy. I was just the other day picketing yesterday and they were playing music for us. And I always talk about that song. This is so dumb and perfect for the show. These Boots Are Made for Walking. That song is so frustrating to me because the very end dance music they put on, I want that whole song. Like it's that bump, 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 bump that just comes on at the very end.
Like,
and obviously it's such a incredible message and what she's singing, you want to hear what she's having to say and you don't want to just get carried away at it. But it just, when it comes in as dessert, I was like, I want to live in the last 10 seconds of that song. And I want that whole thing realized fully. Because that kind of music is what will make me just like, I mean, anytime that's on, I will just be like so happy. I love it. I could live in that music forever.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something really and there is something kind of angry about it too, in a weird way, or just like feels really like, or not angry, but rebellious and strong that I love. That's just sort of like,
well, there weren't that many songs that were critical of men.
Right. Yeah. And and I always love when it's sort of like subversive like that too. It's like, you think it's just this really fun song and you're like, oh, really listen to what it's saying. It's so, yeah.
It's subversive, but it's upbeat.
Right.
And it's very hopeful for the future.
Yes. And I really like that too.
That's so good.
Yeah.
She's great. That song is great.
Yeah. Laraine, you were saying earlier, and I just want to circle back on this thing. You said you were when you were 16, you were on a tour, a teen tour. What was that?
Well, this is kind of dark. I had a frenemy. There wasn't words for that then, but this kid really, I was so depressed, the number she was doing on me. So my parents put me on this teen tour. And it was all these incredibly affluent girls. Like one of them was Fonza Bell, who was the daughter of Alfonso Bell of Bel Air.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And girls back east that were like Gloria Upson from Auntie Mame.
Sure. Bunny Bigglesworth. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like that. And, we had fun in New York. We were all together in one room and we were seeing, and from our hotel across to another hotel. Is that you or me?
Oh, I don't know.
I will decline that. I'm so sorry, guys.
It's all right.
So we saw a couple having sex across the way in another hotel, completely naked. And, and then we get on the SS France to go to England. And the first joke I hear at the dinner table was, "What's the smallest book in the world?" The Book of Jewish Business Ethics.
Wow.
And I was
Wow.
16, and I was kind of like, well, if I tell them that I'm Jewish, then they'll see that we're okay, but that's not what happened. I was completely ostracized for the rest of the trip.
Oh, so you did tell them.
Huh?
You did tell them that you were Jewish, and then they were like,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
Mm.
Gosh.
It's like the full nightmare where I'd walk down the hall of a hotel we're in, and I would hear them talking about me. It was just
It's so
enriching.
awful. Well, when your worst nightmare comes true and you think, oh, I'm being irrational. I shouldn't always live in this. Surely they might go out of their way to be kinder to me, or maybe not say those things. And when you step into a place,
it occurred to me that something like that would happen.
Yeah.
From the school I went to was like 99% Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
I feel like when I think about I had to break up with, I guess an acquaintance who just kept doubling down when I was basically saying what you're saying and doing is homophobic. And I thought our conversation would be, I'm so sorry. Can we talk about this? And I'm like, I'm probably overreacting, but it's kind of how I went. And it was like, oh no, you're wrong. And it's that when somebody does that to you and you're like, oh, this is why I'm scared of talking up, because this is wild that you're not at all receptive.
This was a good friend of yours?
No. It was just someone that I did shows with. And I kind of thought, oh, she's making comments on Facebook that are just kind of dumb jokes about gay men, and gay men are like this, gay men are like that. And I'm like, you're a straight lady and you're not really, I don't know. I was like, this kind of bothers me. I'm sorry, I'm overreacting. I know it's during COVID. And it was like, no, you're wrong. And you're too sensitive. And here's what I don't like about you. And it's just sort of like, I was like, oh, wow. Oh no. Okay. Bye. You can't come back from that. But I was also in my 40s when this happened to me. You were 16. That's also that happening too, when you're like, oh, I didn't know that this would be the reaction and that people would.
The first time I'd ever encountered that.
Gosh.
Mm-hmm. That's really scary. It's horrible.
Yeah. And to feel like, oh, that is what that feels like.
The culmination was that I was in Italy, and you know how like a lot of Italian movies have a real mood about them when someone's running down a street. And, I was by a canal or something, and a bird shit on my head.
Oh, no.
And I was like, well, this is just, and I just sat down on the street and laughed, because it was just the cherry on top.
The perfect thing. Also, your parents were, with great intentions, were trying to get you away to like really see the world and have an enriching experience and connected experience. And instead it was like, oh no, I am. And it's also that thing. It's that like, you can look back and say, oh, great. It shaped me to be the creative singular force that I am now. And I'm fine. I don't need anybody else in this world. But gosh, that's heavy at 16.
It's the startling part of it is the casualness that people have towards anti-Semitism or homophobia. That's what's so shocking. Yes. Like with me, like I went a long time ago, I worked on this very weird thing. The star of it was trying to get me to come and join the rest of the cast. And he said, could you tell Margaret that we're ready to order? And it was like the worst. It's kind of funny, but it's also like so horrible.
It's like, it's so like
the casualness.
The casualness.
I'm just going to be racist right now, but it's okay.
Right.
Just real casual. The casualness is what really irks me.
Well, and then it's like, it's your problem. Come on. I'm kidding. You really think, oh, you're going to go, oh, aren't we cool?
Don't you have a sense of humor?
Yeah. It's like, you're just, when you bring it up, then you're the killjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it's a very, it is the casual nature of these sort of people in supposed power seem to feel like about defending these values that are really wrong.
Right. And it's the worst of the liberal people who think they're beyond it, that are sort of like, Please.
Yeah.
I voted for Obama. Are you kidding me?
Mhm.
I'm cool. And
Yeah.
like, I have plenty, and you're like, no. And I had to learn, I arrogantly thought I had done so much more work than I had, and I'll never finish doing. And it's like, embrace that instead of being so resistant to like, whatever, like, okay, cool. I didn't know that. And I'm wrong. I was wrong. And I'm so sorry if I hurt your feelings. Isn't that kind of where we need to come from versus like, no, you don't understand. I'm very open-minded and you don't get it. You have a bad,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm sorry. I feel like I interrupted.
had something like that happen where on SNL, Rob Reiner was the host of the show, and he and Jane and I think Penny and I went out to Wolf's Deli, and The Heartbreak Kid had just come out.
Oh yeah.
And I hated that movie because of the depiction, of the character of Ginny Berlin as just being the opposite of anything attractive or good,
Mhm.
and having gone to Beverly High School where boys did not like Jewish girls, I was really sensitive. And so I
Yeah.
was saying, I said the character of Jeannie Berlin in The Heartbreak Kid made me ashamed to be a Jewish woman. And Rob said, you should be ashamed anyway, which is really funny. It's really funny. But at the time, I was so sensitive. I was so angry.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
And I
Mhm.
carried that around until one day I was like, oh, that's really funny. He was kidding. It's really funny. Damn it.
Well, and he's Jewish too. I mean, does that make it
Yes.
better? So it's
Yes.
like, I feel like that's also one of those things you look have a reference like, oh, he's including himself in that as well and making like a really,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
love that. Well, y'all, we're almost at time. I think we're at time. I think this has been. I know this has been. I'm not going to say I think this has been. This has been such a great conversation. Thank y'all so much for giving up your morning and chatting. Margaret, did you get your security?
I did.
Oh, wonderful.
Hopefully,
Great.
I'll be secure.
It's wonderful.
It
It's important in this world. We
It
got to
is.
be secure.
really is.
Where can we find y'all on the socials?
You can find me at Margaret_Cho on Instagram, at Margaret Cho on Twitter, and the Margaret Cho on TikTok. And I'm on tour, so you can see me anywhere in the world. MargaretCho.com for tickets.
Oh, that's so great. When do you go back on tour?
I'm on tour now. Well,
Oh,
a little bit here, a little bit there. So yes.
Okay. Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Laraine, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at Laraine Newman and on Instagram at Laraine Newman. And, I work a lot in animation. So the stuff that I'm doing won't be out for like a year or so. And they want to announce the casting. But I am
Okay.
going to show the second season of Big Nate.
Oh, great.
Won a GLAAD award, and it's on Netflix, I think.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
that's where you can hear me.
Hear you on Big Nate. Whatever. That's awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for doing this. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Minor Revelations. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. I love you.
I love y'all.
Thank
y'all
you.
so
Margaret.
much.
I love you.
This was so much fun. Thank y'all so much for doing
fun.
this. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.